bizarre.
I think we should wait.
Should we stand next to each other? Okay.
That was weird. Good morning, everybody. How you guys doing?
By the way, anyone participating in the Matt Spiegel drinking game, you can take a drink now because he's back up on stage.
Stop it. I'm not participating. Good morning, everybody. Beth, good morning.
Good morning.
So we're going to talk about what seems to be a dichotomy, the idea of big CPG company in a real fast world, right?
That is an oxymoron, by the way, CPG company and fast.
Fast, right? It's true. So, but less and less true. That's what we're going to talk about.
For sure.
Let's start with the fact that you guys are, what I hear is a pasta company, and it sounds like people don't like carbs and gluten these days. So talk to us about setting the stage there a little bit.
Yeah, so as you know, some of the barriers that we face in our category in pasta, we do have sauce and a bakery business as well, but people think carbs are bad for you, that they make you fat, which, by the way, pasta is actually a good carb, and we do have many healthy options, whole grain, protein plus, and we do make a gluten-free pasta.
There you go.
But there are a couple barriers that we are facing in the category, which is leading to category decline. So the fact that people think carbs are bad, carb is a dirty word. People think that pasta is not convenient to make. You got to boil the water, and then you got to wait for the pasta, and then you have to drain it, and then you have to mix it with something, and that there's not enough variety. So people here think that pasta is spaghetti and meatballs and lasagna, and there's nothing else to make with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are some of the. There's some big barriers for us.
Some headwinds, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, so given that, I'm guessing that impacts a lot of how you guys think and what you do in this kind of real-time way. Again, what are the key strategies for you in being more, being faster, reacting to current events? I know we've talked a lot about the couple of things that are most kind of prudent for you guys there.
Yeah, so I mean, this year we actually just, I know I've talked to you about this, set up a newsroom with our PR agency. Which is more of a category play, not specific Barilla brand, but someplace where they can be kind of looking to see what's going on. One of the examples I have of recent is Michelle Obama was just on the cover of Cooking Light magazine talking about healthy eating and holding a big, beautiful bowl of pasta with a bunch of just beautiful, colorful vegetables in it. So taking that kind of stuff, searching for all of that stuff and capitalizing on it. Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to do a poster? Are we going to respond? Or should we post some content that's not Barilla specific, but is more category specific? There are other things that come up. Madonna was in Italy and she tweeted, "Thank you, Italy, for the pasta. This is my 4th bowl today." Do we want to retweet it? Do we want to, thank her? All that kind of stuff. So that comes up. From a category perspective, we have a separate, our brand agency, 360i, who does all of our community management and stuff. They work on brand-specific posts, but these are more category-specific. So the newsroom is a big part of what we're doing right now.
So I mean, how did you get Barilla comfortable with this idea of a newsroom, right? What was the selling proposition as to, hey guys, this is really important for us?
So I have to say, we have made a lot of trips to visit other newsrooms. Every time a senior executive comes in from Italy, we actually take them to see. Edelman has several newsrooms within their office. There are several companies that have newsrooms. And what you may not think of, because they weren't really technically called newsrooms, but Gatorade Mission Control, Dairy Management has an actual newsroom. I think, Target has something, Kraft has something. So there's, we actually took them to see how it operates, because I think that really helps. You can't just explain it. Yeah. You have to get them to touch, see, feel.
And for those of us that haven't visited all those newsrooms, what are the telltale signs of a well-functioning newsroom? So
they actually have people sitting in there from the agency, right? And there's an editor, right? Edelman hires people who have traditional journalism backgrounds because they need to create content pretty fast. It's the typical, you have all the screens, they have CNN running, they have, several things, they have all the social feeds running. They have magazines in there. There's a big conference table in the middle, and there's probably about 8 people that's actually their permanent office, right? So they're constantly monitoring. There are people from the client side PR team in there, or possibly the digital and social team that come in and out. And they're constantly talking to each other. Yeah. So they have, the collaboration space in the middle, but then they all have their individual computers and they're watching the screens so that they can be fast.
Yeah, well, we talked a lot about, social becomes often the key theme as we think about this real-time world, and I know that's a key piece of it, I know search is also plays a key component for you guys. Talk about that as well.
Yeah, so it's funny. Recently, I'm sure everyone heard Kraft Mac and Cheese had a recall. There were metal bits in their boxes.
Whoops.
And it happens, you know. Food companies can't monitor everything. Anyway, our agencies called us and they were like, "Hey, we think there's an opportunity, to capitalize on this. You guys have mac and cheese recipes. People aren't buying Kraft Mac and Cheese because there's a recall." And by the time we actually talked about it, there wasn't an opportunity in social anymore because, as you know, the conversation, sometimes even if you wait 2-3 hours, the conversation has already died down. But where we did see an opportunity was in search. So people were still searching for Kraft recall or mac and cheese recall. And so we're like, hey, let's be opportunistic. When they're searching, let's buy ads, mac and cheese recipe. So there was an opportunity there to actually be opportunistic. It's not always just in social.
Yeah. How important is all the content you guys have access to this strategy? I mean, you guys have a lot of recipe information. Is that a key driver of where you choose to participate and not?
That is, but we've actually, within the last year, established, a more cohesive digital and social strategy, and then identified, I think I talked about this yesterday when we were in the town hall, we have content pillars. So I think you really need to set up those pillars because that helps you identify what you're gonna jump in and jump out of, right? So recipes are important to us, but beyond recipes, we're an Italian brand and an Italian company, and there's a lot of passion in Italy, and there's a lot of lifestyle things that go along with eating in the Italian way that we can also capitalize on. So, it's important, like I mentioned the Madonna thing, not to always just quick jump in, because then when you start reading the conversation, it may not be the best or most flattering thing. So, like,
what's worried about Madonna? What are you worried about? I don't understand.
But having those pillars, at least you have a guideline of what you're going to jump in and jump out of.
Yeah. So the Italian heritage of the company both obviously impacts the product, but also just I assume the nature of the company as well. I know a lot of the senior leadership is in Italy. Maybe don't again, I'm making some assumptions, but I'm guessing don't always feel the speed of innovation that we often feel here. How have you gotten that executive leadership team to appreciate the need to do this? Being more proactive in social and search and doing these things.
I think it's really important to have a champion, right? So yes, it's an Italian company. It's a private company. It's owned by the Barilla family. They're the 4th generation owners of from the family. But we have a CEO, Claudio Colzani, who came from Unilever, right? So he's used to seeing things move a little bit more quickly. And he really has made it a priority that we focus on digital and social. Like I think he understands that this is an important thing. We still may not, because of the Italian heritage, operate as quickly as former companies I've worked at, but it's really important to have that senior leader who, is in Italy saying this is important. Yeah. And, we need people, they didn't have a digital leader in the Americas region until I started. Yeah. So there were, Jessica, I can see you. Jessica worked there, but for 3 years without much leadership. And now I think with the CEO, there is someone saying this is important.
Yeah, and so that's the champion side. I know you've also talked about the importance, and you do a lot of education. I'm guessing not just to the senior leadership team, but to the company at large. Talk about that strategy.
Yeah, so we actually, within the last year, set up a full digital education curriculum. It includes search, social. We literally just finished we have one more left in our pod for social, talking specifically about content and what makes good content. But there's a person that reports into me who we unofficially call the Dean of Digital Education, and he's developed the curriculum, and depending what the topic is, we work with our agency partners and then the people internally to develop education. And some are full day things, and we actually get a lot of people to come, and we invite the entire company. We don't just invite the marketing team, because our chefs are really interested in social media, and other people in the company, it's important for them to understand what we're doing on Pinterest and what we're doing on Facebook.
Yeah, we've talked about before also, you have what you call social media task force. Tell us about that. How does that operate?
So it's an unofficial, loose team made up of our PR team, my team. We have legal involved, pull in brand people, our consumer relations people as needed. So when that mac and cheese thing came up, that was the team we got together. So it was, it's kind of a loose team, but like you need people internally. So like if it needs to be run up the flagpole, you need somebody to do it.
I mean, what does that actually look like? Is that when you say get the team together, conference call, everyone get in a room together? Is there does someone pick up the bat phone and say this is now their priority?
Sometimes.
Okay.
But it could also start with just an email. Hey, we think there's an opportunity, or someone from Italy, that's what happened with the Madonna thing, sent us the Madonna tweet.
Yeah.
So it can happen in any various ways. I think if we waited for everyone to get in the room together, it would be 3 weeks later, and there's no opportunity then.
Yeah.
So, we have one person internally, they're the point person. They need to be contacted. Don't wait to try and schedule a meeting with 6 people.
Yeah. So that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Talk about the metrics of success for this stuff, right? We talked about this in the town hall. It came up a bunch of times yesterday. Everyone's still figuring out what are the right metrics. How do you balance, what really matters, I guess, is the question. How are you guys thinking about that?
So that's an interesting question because I actually we have a lot of the same issues that came up in the town hall, right? It's a traditional packaged goods company. They're used to seeing an FSI where they can actually measure redemption. They're used to TV where they can get a Nielsen number that says it was successful. And it's still tough. I think we're still trying to figure out. I mean, we use this, for social, it's sentiment, shares, likes. It's the same stuff but I would love to be able to get to a sales number, from that. I just don't think we've figured that out yet.
So is just good, if views good enough? Are forwards good enough? Is a virality matter?
I think at this point, all of those things are important because like from a category perspective, we want to make sure people are talking about the category to help raise it up. Hey, you know what? I saw this pasta recipe, or hey, they have gluten-free pasta, or you want people to just be more aware.
Yeah.
So from a category perspective, I think that's helping, plus help change the perception that pasta is bad for you.
Yeah.
From a brand perspective, I think those things work too, but that's where you really need to see the sales moving.
Yeah. Let's talk. You mentioned obviously a lot of this requires partners, agencies. I'm guessing not just agencies. I'm sorry, lots of types of partners. What is the mix for you guys, and how do you think of that going forward? Of how much of this do you want to quote own versus how much of this is just naturally in the hand of those types of partners?
Well, due to sheer bandwidth internally, we can't really own much of it. I mean, there are some companies where all their social media is done in-house. There are some like ours where we have experts in-house to help manage the agencies, but for us, all of our community management is done through an agency. The newsroom will be run by an agency with our participation, and our partners are really important to us. We're just a small brand with not huge budgets, so you kind of have to rely on them. And actually, I sometimes think it's better because they have so many other resources internally.
Yeah.
It's not just the people working on your team. There's somebody who actually is thinking about social in a bigger picture and sending POVs, and they're the ones keeping you updated on everything.
Yeah. Last one for me for a minute, and then we'll turn to you guys to ask some questions. I mean, it sounds like, again, it's not one agency, by the way. There's lots of agencies. Talk about that overlap. How do you guys get people into the right work streams and the swim lanes? How does that work?
So we do have multiple agencies, obviously. We have PR, we have a digital social agency, we have a media agency. They all talk to each other constantly, which is great. We actually consolidated agencies. We had multiple agencies last year and consolidated down to the 3 that we're working with, which is,
So short list is important,
yes.
but you've got them working pretty well together.
Yeah, it was at Comcast yesterday where you said you had 11 agencies of record. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't,
Scary.
Well, because when I was at Kraft, and we had 10 agencies of record, and I think back to those days, it's so much easier to get them to communicate with each other and be consistent when you have 3.
Right, sure. Great, excellent. Questions from the audience? I know it's early. We're getting our coffee going.
I did see some of you at yoga, which was great.
Nice.
There's a question.
There we go, great.
What percentage of the overall marketing budget is going to digital and social?
Well, if you would have asked me that last year, it would have been a totally different answer. So last year, probably 95% of our budget went to traditional media. It's basically flip-flopped. So we probably have, I would say 90
And that's
percent going to-
U.S. specific, I assume?
It is U.S. specific, yeah.
Interesting.
It's different in every region, so like I work with Brazil, they're still on the traditional path, but we've gotten them to actually, though, invest in digital and social this
A
year.
one-year change of that magnitude, how does that happen?
Partly budgetary, partly looking at where the decline is coming from in the category, which is largely due to millennials. They want stuff that's faster, more convenient. They're the ones that are talking about us, saying it's not healthy for you, not enough variety. So, and they're not watching TV. They're watching video, but not in the traditional
TV,
sense of the word.
Got it. Great. Other questions? All right. Yeah.
You mentioned sort of changing the perception of pasta as being unhealthy. I mean, how do you exactly do that, and how do you do that, especially on social? Because I think that especially seems like a difficult task.
So, it's more of a category play, like I said, so it's not from a brand perspective, but even our brand and the innovations we have in the actual physical product are whole grain, are gluten-free, are, and talking about those specifically. But when I was talking about changing the perception for the category, it is really going out and seeing where people, I was talking to you about this. Last year, I think it was, the cover of Time magazine had a stick of butter, and it was like, butter's now good for you. Well, we want to be that. Like, so how do we change the perception? And it's going out and posting content that's not even branded, right? It's just about, hey, we found, there's a study that's been looking through and searching what studies have been done on pasta and the value of eating carbohydrates and, how pasta has a low glycemic index and, So it's literally going out and doing things like that. It's not really a branded play. It's more of a category.
So then just to follow up with that, how do you guys then work with other people? I mean, Time is a good example. I mean, do you guys work with other people kind of
Yeah, so that
push
newsroom is set up. I
Yeah.
think I mentioned that we have an actual editor in that newsroom, and they are constantly working with influential nutritionists, bloggers, food personalities, Time magazine, whoever it is, they're constantly in conversations. I think the Cooking Light example I gave, we actually knew that was coming out well before it came out because they're in constant contact with them. So we talk to editors at Hearst, at Meredith, at big publishing companies too. So they're constantly in contact with them to just kind of see what's coming out, where we can kind of insert ourselves in the conversation.
Great. Any more daring souls this morning? All right. Well, someone gets at the courage. What's next then? Where do you go? Right. What do you want to see happen over the next 12 months?
Well, I think we still need to I'd like to actually get to a point where we're even more nimble. I think it's this past year has been constant learning on how to get this stuff done, who needs to approve it, and we've missed some opportunities. I think, frankly, the mac and cheese thing, we couldn't get in on the conversation because by the time we actually did meet, it was past the conversation.
Yeah.
So I think it's just improving our agility internally. I think we've made a really big change and a step forward in the last year beyond where we had been.
Yeah. Do you fear stepping on competitors' toes too much ever in a case like that?
Yes, so I think you have to tread lightly. I think doing the search thing where it was we weren't blatantly calling out that, hey, don't buy their product, right. There's metal in it,
What happened again?
Yeah, just in case anyone didn't know. But I mean, I think you have to tread lightly. So I think all of those things need to be considered. And so the sooner you start talking about it, the better, because you want to kind of be at least within the same day to talk about that stuff.
Great. Got a minute left. Any final question out there, anybody? I'll keep going. I don't mind asking questions. All right. So when does this get connected to media at a more mass scale? When does or is it already happening? When do these investments translate into how you spend the big bucks in media?
So, big bucks.
I mean, you don't have the. You understand the point.
Yes, I do. I mean, and it already is connected. Yeah, I think. I mean, our agencies are constantly in conversation with each other. So, because one agency is planning social and digital strategy, and the other one's doing the media buying. So they have to be talking. So it's already.
It's happening.
We're already doing it. I just think it would be, we need to be faster on our end, right? So when they come to us as a team, collective team, saying there's an opportunity, we need to be a little faster. Okay. I think, you know, in past jobs, I've had, you know, we've had the pop-up newsroom, we've had the, you know, during big events. I don't think we'll ever get to that point, but I think just even these, you know, even the pop-up opportunities are important.
Yeah. Great. Very interesting. Beth, thank you very much for sharing all those insights. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.